Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and our program, Get to Know. I'm DP Lyle, and I'm here with my co-host and partner in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Thanks, Doug. It's great to be here. And I'm very excited today to introduce a fabulous writer. She's a thriller writer. Her name is Sagit Schwartz, and she's got a new book out that she's going to tell us about. And we're going to talk a little bit about her whole life because we want to get to know her. So, Sagit, where did you grow up? And my question is, do you think your childhood influenced you in any way to become a writer?
Oh, that's so interesting. I've done a lot of podcasts for my book launch, but that is the first time anyone asked me that question.
Yay!
Yeah, I grew up in a lot of places, including Chicago, San Francisco, New York. I've been in LA area since 2001. So this is home. I'm about an hour outside of LA, south in a small little beach town. And anyway,
Oh, there's a lot of those, and they're very good. Which one are you in?
Right now, Redondo Beach.
Nice.
Not sure if we'll stay here. Might go further south, and the coming years as our daughter transitions from high school to go to college.
Right.
We'll see. But I think the writer, if my childhood had something to do with me being a writer, I've always been just innately curious about people's stories, and writing is a second career. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I practiced for a decade before that. And I think my interest in stories really had a lot to do with why I became a therapist too, because I was interested in people. And writing is all about being interested in people's stories. So I'm not sure if my childhood directly related to it. I've always just innately been curious about other human beings. And that's where the writing and storytelling desire was born from.
Were you an outgoing child? Were you more introverted? Did you read a lot?
Read nonstop. One of my favorite things to do. I think I was more on the introverted side. I mean, always had friends and social groups, but I think they define a person is introverted if the way they recharge is in solitude.
Correct.
Extroverts recharge through socialization. So I'm definitely more on the introverted side.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. And what about being a psychotherapist? I mean, that's fascinating too, in and of itself. Has that, did that have anything to do with you becoming, I mean, of course, being curious about people, a writer, and does it influence your writing?
Definitely influences it. My debut thriller, Since She's Been Gone, is about a psychologist in recovery from an eating disorder who learns the mom she lost to a hit and run 25 years before might still be alive and keeping dangerous secrets.
Oh, wow.
It features a psychologist, and it also deals with a specific mental health issue that's been largely left out of adult contemporary fiction, eating disorder. So
wow.
That it very much in this particular book, my therapy background, my clinical expertise was front and center. I'm working on a very different kind of book now that has nothing to do with the field, but for this project, yes.
Wow. And that is a beautiful cover. Love that cover.
Thank you. I do too. It was a journey. That cover was
really
landing on that cover was a journey. I think it might have been the 5th or 6th cover my publisher and I worked on. And I love it too, because it really encapsulates the story too. It's about this woman in the aftermath of losing her mom, the grief, and now learning that she might still be alive. I'm not giving anything away because literally in the first 2 pages, a patient shows up, supposed patient shows up at her office and says, "Oh, hi, your mom's still alive and she's in danger." And she had been killed in a hit and run 26 years before.
Wow.
That is
That's
chilling, and that's a
yes.
hook. That's a hook.
I have goosebumps on my arm. That's fantastic.
Well, you know, as a thriller mystery writer, you have a very tiny amount of real estate to grab a reader. I mean, we're
Right.
talking like a page or two. We live in an
Absolutely.
attention economy. Everyone is scattered, and you know,
Yep.
you're competing with people's phones, and you're competing with TikTok and YouTube, and I mean,
It's
a
so
million
true.
things. So
Yeah.
and then on top of it, thriller readers and mystery readers, they are used to
Yep.
a very quick pace. So you got to grab them quickly. So I knew that. I knew in the first couple pages, I had to have the scene that
Yeah.
would propel people to read the whole novel.
Well, let's talk
That's
about that
brilliant.
for a minute. At what age did you decide, hey, I want to write a fictional story? And then what did you do to prepare yourself to walk down that path? Or
Well,
did
I
you
had
just jump
been
in?
working in Hollywood, and then the pandemic hit, and my family moved out of LA, and it was a scary time. Nobody was like going in writers' rooms or things like that, or meetings. And I just decided I would try writing a book, that it made more sense for where my life was and where the world was. And I had this idea in my head. So I was like, I'm going to try it.
Oh, but
And that's what I
you
did.
you had worked in production before, and you said in Hollywood in writers' room. Did you were doing some TV writing and stuff like that? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, Lifetime Television. I wrote some screenplays as well, but um, as I said, the way that things unfolded, I decided that writing books might be better for my lifestyle. So I gave it a go, and took me about a year to write the book. I revised it, and then I got my agent, and we went out with it, and it felt like forever to me, but I was told that it sold very quickly in publishing terms, although it didn't feel quickly at all to me.
Publishing moves very slowly.
It never does feel great. So this book is about eating disorders and anorexia, bulimia, and all the other
Well,
things that go
I
in that
wouldn't say
world.
I would say it
Yeah,
features a protagonist
right.
that is dealing with that mental health issue.
But
It's
it
a
deals with
thriller.
that.
Yeah.
What advice can you give people who a family member may be spiraling in that direction? What are the signs that they would look for or see?
Well,
And
the eating disorders come on very, very quickly, so it's not hard to miss. Um, but the main message of my book is that recovery is possible. It has a hopeful message about recovery.
sure, sure.
Recovery is possible. And I really wanted to write a thriller with a message of hope, because the world needs more of that. And
Agree
so
with
it
you.
has
Yeah.
that in there. And I also view it as a form of advocacy. I've had a lot of readers reach out who are either in recovery themselves, have family members in recovery, who are fighting for their recovery, and representation matters. I had a piece come out in Crime Reads the last week of February, which was Eating Disorder Awareness Week, about that, about therapy and books acting as mirrors, and mirrors being incredibly healing and therapeutic for patients and readers.
In many of
Love.
those psychological things, as you know, the first step is that the person realizes they're not alone, that they're not that strange, that they may
Yes.
be strange, but so are a lot of other people. And
Yes.
and there's a lot of people in your boat.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
because that's how books can really, when they act as a mirror, then a reader has a chance to walk away feeling less alone in their human experience. It normalizes them. And really, the point of my article, I drew a parallel to therapy, because that's actually what happens in therapy too with a good clinician. They are mirroring the patient's experience back to them. And oftentimes it's the first time in the person's life they've even shared this specific thing with
Wow.
someone. And if they are met in a non-judgmental way, in a way that just authentically mirrors their experience back to them, it can be incredibly healing. So I view both books and therapy can be used as a good force in that
Mhm.
way.
No, I think that's really important, and it's such an important topic. I personally know a couple of adults, friends who still to this day deal with eating disorders. And a lot of people think that that's something for children and teenagers, but it's
That
anyone.
actually, I brought that up in my article, and that can make an adult feel very ashamed and alone, and it's a barrier to seeking treatment.
And so is that what you recommend if we have any viewers who are struggling with this, is to get treatment, to get into therapy with it?
You're not alone, first of all. It
Mhm,
is
mhm.
this mental health issue affects 10% of the population. That's a lot of people. This
Sure.
does not just affect thin, young, white girls. No,
Yeah.
no. That
Right,
is
right.
very antiquated, stereotypical, wrong thinking, frankly.
Yeah.
And this is something that affects people of all races, all socioeconomic backgrounds, all genders,
Yeah.
all ages. It is not how it's been historically portrayed in the media. We live in a
So
fat
true.
phobic society, so oftentimes eating disorders are glamorized or
Mhm.
portrayed in aspirational ways. They are not glamorous. They are not aspirational. They are life-threatening.
Yep.
Treatment is available and recovery is possible. Those are my main points.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's a very important message. And I'm glad you did a protagonist with eating disorders, because that isn't out there. I mean, I read a lot. I'm sure I could have missed it somewhere, but I don't think I know that I've never read where you have a protagonist who has an issue
You
like that.
you might find it in YA
Sure.
books or some new adult books, which is 18 to 25-year-old protagonist, but really an adult, it's scarce. It's scarce in
Yeah.
literature. And when you think about all the mental health issues in books,
Right.
from addiction to depression to bipolar disorder to
Yeah.
schizophrenia to, I mean, all the things, this
Right.
one is not, doesn't, is
Yeah.
not heavily
Alcoholism's a
portrayed.
big one in so many books. I mean,
What?
there's alcoholism.
Yeah,
You have,
alcoholism.
the recovering cop, that's it's
Right.
almost gotten to be as, so overused. So you have things like that. And yet
And
this
in
is an
mystery and
important
thrillers,
topic.
domestic violence is often,
Yes. Yes.
and post-traumatic stress disorder related to domestic violence. There's things that come up,
Yep. Yep.
in addiction too, to your point, and thrillers,
Yeah.
mystery. So anyway,
Yeah.
what makes it unique also kind of made it a challenge, though, in a way, to sell, because historically publishers have been, I'm not quite sure why, a little bit reticent. I was so blessed to have such an amazing editor, so talented and so smart, and elevated my book so much. And she also went to bat
Wow.
for me because she believed that
Well,
Yes.
this should
that's
be out
so
there.
important. That is so important.
Yeah.
It really is.
So,
It really is.
this obviously this story could have been a lifetime episode, but
Yeah.
but when you decided
Movie
to,
rights are available.
Yeah, right.
hello out there,
Still can
just
happen.
saying, right? Look at
Yeah.
me. Good idea.
Oh, absolutely.
When you
Yeah.
decided to move from, the story came to your mind and you decided to move from screenwriting over to making this a novel, uh, what did you find the most difficult part of making that transition? Because they're two different animals.
Oh yeah.
People think that they're, oh, well, do you write that? You ought to be able to write this. No, 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 no. They're two different animals. So, what did you find the most difficult, and what did you find the most helpful in making that transition?
I think writing a book is harder than writing a script, in my opinion, or TV script or screenplay, because it's so much longer. And
Sure.
when you, and my book is, this book is a dual timeline thriller. In the past, my protagonist is a 15-year-old, and her mother was just killed in a hit and run, and she develops an eating disorder and has to go to residential treatment center for it. In the present, my protagonist is an adult and gets this bombshell news about her mom, and then goes on the hunt to try and find out, is her mom alive? What happened? And it's scary and dangerous and thrilling. And some of the old eating disorder stuff starts to creep back.
Sure.
So that's what's going on in the book. So in terms of the challenges with writing a book versus scripts, when I had to do revisions on this, it wasn't just the fact that I had to revise over 300 pages. And when you start pulling a yarn somewhere, it goes everywhere else. It was dual timelines. So the revision process was complex because if I made changes in the present, sometimes then I had to go back to the past and change things there.
Sure.
And in just the breadth and scope of making changes over 300 pages versus 6 scenes that like one storyline for one character, it's just a much bigger endeavor in my opinion. I would say what I like about it that you can't really do in scripts is really getting into the head of a character and the emotional life inside of a human being, their thinking processes. You can't really do that in a script. So that's a little bit more freeing to be able to go there. But I'm working on a new project, and it's kind of bringing me back to some Hollywood stuff. I don't know if that's one of the questions later, like what are you working on, but I could get into that.
It is.
Yes,
So let's
carry on.
Wait.
No. Love to know what you're working on. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, on this subject, since you wrote a fractured timeline, two timelines, two different time periods, did you feel like you had to actually have two different plot outlines and two different plot that you meshed together? How did you keep the timeline straight?
Okay, so when I started the book, it was all in the present, and then I was 10 chapters in, and I realized each chapter, the protagonist was talking about the past for half of it. And I'm like, this is not working, because that's like telling the reader. And then that happened to me, and then that happened to me, and then it became apparent to me that I had to break this up and make the past, and the present. So once I transitioned over to that, I actually used this huge those rolls of white paper.
That's Kathy. That's what Kathy does.
That's rolls of paper.
And then I had Post-it notes for color schemed Post-it notes for each of the time periods, because there were actually 3 time periods. There was the past, there was the present, and then there was what happened before my protagonist was even born, because it had to do with her mom's storyline.
Wow.
Because it was like 3 different things. It was this huge ring. I was constantly moving things around with these Post-it notes.
That's why rolls of paper work great.
I couldn't keep track of it otherwise. I tried a whiteboard, but I was like, no, I actually need Post-it notes, because I need to be able to move things around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it kept growing. It was like, like blooming like flowers.
They have a way of doing that, books do. So did you
the monster on the wall,
in the final product, or just 2 timelines in the final product?
No, the final product's just 2 timelines, but I had to understand, since the whole story is driven by what happened to her mom. Like, what was her mom's deal? A lot of it predated my protagonist even being born.
Wow.
And so I needed to understand that for myself to be able to write what happened, to her mom. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. I'm very excited.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
It's available everywhere books are sold.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump ahead now to what you are currently writing.
So since she's been gone, my debut thriller is heartfelt, it's earnest, it features a reliable narrator, which is also a bit unique in thrillers. It has a hopeful message. what I'm working on now is it is still a mystery thriller, but it's completely different in tone. It's a big popcorn thriller that partially takes place in the reality TV music world on a show like The Voice, American Idol.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, it's very, very different. And it's the characters are very different. The topic's completely different. It's fun. And I'm enjoying writing it. My first book, there were times where I cried writing it. I've gotten messages from readers. I cried. It's my first book. I cried. But this one is not like that. It's just a straight up popcorn thriller.
Yeah.
It's interesting. My big challenge with it has to do with copyright issues because it takes place in the reality TV music world, where people perform songs and sing their way to stardom. I can't use lyrics. So I have figured out interesting ways to get around that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
so
which is
you're going to give us like a glimpse behind the scenes on what really goes on in these reality TV shows, or people
it has
trying
to
to
do
reach
with
the American
one of
dream.
the employees that works there, and then a contestant that goes missing. So
cool.
But it was funny because I have actually a funny story about copyright issues. So in my first book, my debut since she's been gone, the musical Rent is featured at one point.
Okay.
When my protagonist goes back to try and trace what happened to her mom when her mom was in college and, studying to become an actress and all this. And she goes back to the old apartment and they're rehearsing the musical Rent. Yeah. And I really had wanted to use a line from the title, the main song from that show. And I talked to my editor, and my editor is also an author, wrote multiple YA books. And there was one she's obsessed with Rent. We have that in common. And she really wanted to use it, but she was like, I looked into it, it's going to be so expensive. It was like an impossible. And I was like, all right, I'm just leaving it out. But I just mentioned, they're rehearsing Rent. I don't get into the song, or what I had wanted to include. Like a week or two after my book was completely locked and loaded to go to print. So this is like done, right? I was at a cafe doing some work, strip mall, off the beaten path, like, I don't know. The only reason why I even knew about it is because my husband's a bit of a foodie and he read that it had just opened. And the owner, I guess, had owned another place in Redondo many years ago, a French guy, and then left for France and then returned. But like nobody was there except for me and this other woman. We were sitting outside working, and we started to strike up a conversation. And she is Jonathan Larson's estate attorney.
Oh my gosh.
Specifically dealing with the copyright stuff. Like, I guess the estate has a couple attorneys, one for all the homes and assets, then the other for like this stuff. And so then I start telling her, I'm like, about my book, and I'm like, it's locked and loaded, and I oh my God, and I wanted to use a line from Red, and I knew I couldn't because of copyright issues. And she says to me, you could have asked.
Too late now.
Talk about
my God,
a coincidence. See, I don't believe in coincidence.
She's like, for the movie version, here's my card for the movie version. I was like, oh my God,
that is amazing.
Unbelievable.
I believe in synchronicities, not
roaming this planet.
Yeah.
In this like an hour outside of LA in the strip mall. Like
bizarre.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone.
Because maybe I won't get sued, but all the gin joints in all the world, why did she walk into my? Yes. I hope they don't send me a bill. Of course, it's probably not a direct quote, so that
actually has made me think, like, for this book that I'm working on, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll just try tracking down some of the lawyers for like a song or two. I'll see. Yeah.
And aren't some things in the public domain that you can use?
Some are, some songs are. Absolutely. There are certain songs that are, like certain nursery rhymes. And I mean, there's things. Yeah.
So,
But
I don't
most
know
of them
what
aren't,
kind
and
you want to
they,
use.
yeah, most of them aren't, and they don't want you using their lyrics. So,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a.
Yeah.
So you're working on the next book, and then another one, and another one, and another one. So
Well, one at a time.
jump on the train.
They take a while, I'm
Yes,
not,
they do.
Some people are like, they just crank them out in a few months. I don't know. It takes me a little longer.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Especially when you want to churn out really quality product too. I mean,
yeah.
Completely respect
Where
that.
are you both located?
I'm in Colorado.
Okay.
And I'm in Orange County.
Oh,
So I'm not far from you.
OC. Where in Orange County?
I live in a town called Lake Forest. It's right next to Mission Viejo and Irvine and Laguna Hills, right in there.
Got it. Oh,
South
that's a
County.
pretty area.
I used to live in Manhattan Beach.
You
So
did?
I know the South Bay very well. I love the South Bay where you are.
We're going to, on Thursday, my husband and I are going to Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
We're checking out the area. So.
Oh, Huntington's cool. It's a cool place.
We're going to the northernmost tip that's next to Seal Beach.
Yeah. Seal Beach is cool too. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a delight, and we appreciate you being on the show and sharing your career and your life and what you're doing and all that with us. It's been very informative.
Yeah, you're a great interview. Great to have you.
Yeah, I so enjoyed meeting you. I hope it's not the last time.
Oh no, we'll have to have you back on for sure.
We'll
talk about the movie rights when
happens. Is the event that you and Matt are doing again?
Yes. It's 2 weeks from Thursday. I'm just pulling up. It's on March 28th. It's Zibby's Bookshop in Santa Monica at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Great.
Cool.
Zibby's Bookshop's a new indie bookstore in Santa Monica.
Oh, really?
They celebrated their 1-year anniversary. It's on Montana Avenue.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. All right.
Well, Sagit, thank you so much. This is Sagit Schwartz. Since she's been gone, you've got to read
I have a little this shows you how good I am at selling.
Perfect. Outstanding.
Well,
thank you so much for being with us. We will definitely have you back.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here in this episode. And until next time, we'll see you then.